Welcome to this technical deep dive into some of the background lore of the Hegira Contravention series. My name is Drew Wagar, and I'm the author of this series of space opera books. There are four main factions in the Hegira universe. These are the Coalition, the Hegemony, the Far Alliance, and the Guild. Now, only the Coalition and the Hegemony have histories which stretch back into the distant past. The Far Alliance and the Guild are relatively recent creations. The first of these, the Coalition, is based around a colony that was established in the Luyten star system, the results of one of the early successful genships that left the Sol system. Conditions in this colony were very, very brutal. The planet they arrived on was pretty harsh, rather like Mars with a breathable atmosphere. Resources were very, very thin on the ground. There wasn't much water, not much in the way of food, fuel, or anything along those lines, which meant that the colony struggled for several generations. Life was extremely tough. And this toughness and make do and fight against adversity has really filtered through into coalition society, even to the present day. There is little in the way of artistry or music in this society. They're very much built down to a price. Everything has function over form, and so it's not a great place to be if you're a creative type of individual. The society is very industrially focused. Everything is about output, everything is about production, everything is about results. There's very little in the way of safety nets in the society, so if you don't achieve your objectives, life can be very harsh for you as an individual indeed. The Coalition managed to control a number of star systems, and as a result they have a large military installation in the Lalande system, which is a floating city based in the atmosphere of a gas giant called Amethyst, and here is where they construct their vast fleets of warships and other military vessels, which makes them the dominant faction in the Hegira universe. They have vast military power, and they're not afraid to use it. The second faction in the Hegira universe is the Hegemony. Now, the Hegemony was also founded by a generation ship that left the Earth, but this time aimed at the Tau Ceti star system instead. By contrast with what the Coalition found, the initial founders of the Hegemony were quite blessed with their arrival in the Tau Ceti system, as it had several Earth-like worlds for them to settle on, and as such they didn't have the initial early struggles that the inhabitants of the Coalition did. This has resulted in a very resource-rich society, but one that has a very strict social structural code. It's actually a matriarchy based under an empress, who is a hereditary empress, who can trace her line back to the original founding ships of the Hegemony. The structure of Hegemony society is a matriarchy, with the empress at the top, and several layers of differing roles and ranks below her, all paying homage to the one above. Ultimately, down at the base level, there are indentured slaves, and the hierarchy between the different ranks in society is strictly enforced. So whilst the Hegemony is resource-rich, individual freedoms can be very, very limited, depending on your role in society and the rank you manage to attain. It's very difficult to move up a rank in the Hegemony, but it's relatively straightforward to commit some sort of social faux pas and lose your rank and effectively be demoted. So much of Hegemony society is based upon the ability to retain what you have and not make any mistakes. So it's a society which is quite static and not very innovative. By contrast with the Coalition, everything is about status, everything is about showing off who you are and what you're capable of, and form trumps function in almost everything. Things must be beautiful, things must be artistic, things must be musical, and even if results aren't achieved, saving face and making sure you put the best possible spin on anything is absolutely central to the Hegemony way of life. They are a technically advanced society, but they haven't availed themselves of any of the possibilities afforded by gene therapy and genetic evolution technologies, which are commonplace elsewhere. They believe in the purity of the human genome and try very, very hard to preserve it. In fact, the Empress has to be genetically pure and cannot be modified in any way. So there's an awful lot of prestige attached to being genetically pure in the Hegemony, and this has big impacts on their society. The third faction is the Far Alliance. This is a much smaller group which actually broke away from the hegemony, the result of conflict between the hegemony and the coalition over interstellar acquisition of different systems. The Far Alliance actually is the most technologically advanced faction within the Hegira Universe at this time. However, they are quite small. They only have 2 star systems within their control, but they have gone in for technology being pretty much the answer to everything. Their solution to any problem is to throw technological prowess at it, whether that's interstellar travel, spacecraft technology, adaptability of human biology, terraforming, you name it, they will have a technical solution to it. Their technology is far more advanced than everybody else, which gives them the ability to be independent. The hegemony has never really accepted their breakaway, so there's a lot of political tension there, but they do trade with the other factions, and their technology is sought after by lots and lots of independent systems as well, because it is the most advanced that is available. They're very powerful regarding themselves, but they are also quite isolationist. Given their history with the hegemony, they don't like outside interference, and they keep themselves to themselves. The final major faction is the Guild. Now, the Guild was formed out of volunteers from the other societies in the Hegira Universe, simply to manage the interstellar mesh gates, which you'll hear a little bit more later on. The Guild are forbidden from having their own fleets of spacecraft, and they are an entirely spaceborne entity. They don't have any planets, and they don't actually have any star systems either. Their abodes are effectively the mesh gates themselves, which are positioned on the edge and operate transit between the interstellar systems. They were formed due to a war between the hegemony and the coalition, and act as gatekeepers between the different star systems. You can only move between stars by permission of the Guild, but as already said, they don't have their own spacecraft, which is the sort of check and balance in the way that they operate. An entirely spaceborne people, they have their own codes and their own ways of working, and they value their independence from the other factions as their greatest kind of single achievement, and as a spaceborne culture, they're radically different in many ways to the other 3. There were several other colony ships that were successful in the early days of the Hegira, and these have founded different colonies across space, known collectively as the independent systems. Now, some of these are extremely poor, and some of them, however, are extremely rich, and are able to resist the acquisitions of the hegemony and the coalition, and they have some of their own military capabilities as well. Some of these are in the process of joining the coalition or the hegemony or the Far Alliance, but some are holding their independence extremely fiercely as well. So there's a lot of political tension in the Hegira Universe at the time that the story opens. For individual traders operating between these factions, there are clearly profits to be made from one to the other, but caution has to be taken in dealing with each one of them, because close association with one will tend to make you unpopular in one of the other regions. If you're travelling in hegemony and coalition space, you can expect a fair amount of military or kind of enforcement support across the star systems. However, if you're operating in independent space, you may find no such thing, and these systems are necessarily a little bit more anarchic than the others. Piracy, alas, is still rife in the Hegira Universe, and spaceships need to be able to defend themselves in case of they come under attack, somebody pinching their resources or trying to use them for any other kind of nefarious deeds. I hope that gives you a little bit of a backdrop to some of the politics that are going on in the Hegira Universe, and I look forward to the next video.